Interviewing Joselle Smith as part of our project for Women's History Month to talk to the women who have been the mayor of Culver City. So Joselle, thank you so much for speaking with us today. And I wanted to ask, what inspired you to run for the council?
Interesting question. That was back in 85, I guess I launched my campaign. Prior to that, some people had talked me into it because I was involved on the Parks Commission in Culver City. I was writing a newspaper column even then. And my dad had been a councilman and a school board member. My husband was on the planning commission, and maybe this young lady someday will be a mayor. But so I just figured perhaps it was time for some new energy on the council, so I decided to run.
How many people were running?
Seems like it was a field of about 7, pretty good sized field.
Wow, that's a lot. And how many seats were open?
2 seats open, 1 incumbent was running, and unfortunately it was kind of a campaign against the incumbent on some people's parts, but I was only running because there was a seat open, so I wanted that seat. I didn't care which seat it was. So I just ran my campaign on my own merits, and if people want to vote for me, I'd take their vote. I was pretty surprised. I was a top vote getter.
Great.
And yeah, that surprised me, and they immediately elected me vice mayor, which was pretty daunting for someone who's new on the council. But the other folks on the council were welcoming and warm and responsive, and it was a very collegial introduction to city government. Great. Not quite like it is today.
Yeah, I think every council has its own personality. So exactly. Who did you serve with?
I served with Paul Netzel, Dick Brendo, Richard Alexander, and Paul Jacobs. And I think at the first meeting I looked around and I said, it's possible to serve on this council without being named Richard or Paul. That would be me.
A little something to break up the monotony.
Well, I'll say. But it was interesting at the time, the chief administrative officer, was Dale Jones, then moved over to Jody Hall Esser, and at that time, there hadn't been a lot of women on the city council. I think I was the second one only in the history of the city to serve. But staff would say, Mr. Netzel or Mr. Alexander, Joselle, or Mr. Jacobs, Joselle. I thought that was funny that, it's just one of the girls.
We do tend to do that linguistically. It's kind of an interesting quirk. So, of the time that you spent on the council, or the time that you spent as mayor, what was the one thing that you accomplished that you were most pleased with, most proud of?
I think introducing the concept of recycling to the city of Culver City. That was just heretofore unheard of, to separate your trash. And I was active in the League of California Cities and taught some of the city staff members whose domain that included Public Works Department, dragged them to some meetings up in San Francisco to say, hey, this is what could be accomplished. We could be recycling half, of our trash, and that became our goal.
What was your biggest frustration in the time that you served?
Biggest frustration? I don't get easily frustrated, and I don't think it was all very satisfying. I don't really think I had any major frustration.
Great. And I understand you also brought in the farmers market.
Yes, the city was a little bit resistant to having a farmers market, and I got acquainted with the other market managers in the area. It was my last term on the city council. They still voted it down, and then the first year I was off, a city hall staff member asked me if I would be manager of the market, and she wanted to present it to the new council, and it passed, and I was manager the first year of the market.
What would you say to encourage more women in Culver City to get involved in politics?
Yes, to get involved locally, absolutely. In your own backyard, if you're active in a religious or a spiritual house of worship in Culver City, your kids' schools, do something to show that you're capable of researching, making decisions, leading people, marshaling opinion. If you think yours is right, to go for it, and work your way up. Then see if you can get appointed to a city commission, planning commission. I always said I was never smart enough for the planning commission, and all of a sudden there I was mayor. But how did that happen? So you learn fast, and you learn a lot by being on a city commission about structure.
Yeah. All right. Well, great. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Leilani, for sharing your grandma with us.
We'll do a vote for Leilani campaign.
Okay, vote for Leilani. There you go. Women of the future. All right. Future
Thank
women.
you, Judith.
Thank you, Joselle.
Uh-huh.